So you overdid it again? And it feels like your voice is like totally shot. Woo! YOLO, man! No, you the man! You the man! Oh, let's do shots, guys! Okay, it's on me! Woo! Maybe you went to a bar where you had to scream over the music and you were yelling all night and oh my gosh, how many drinks did you have? And on the way home, you were hungry, so you grabbed a bunch of crappy fast food and you barely slept. Or maybe you had a show where you had to sing really, really intensely or lots of high notes all in a row and it feels like your voice is dying. Dude, hopefully I'm not calling anybody out over here. Whatever the reason that you lost your voice, I want to show you how you can revive it. Now, before we get into how to revive your voice, we have to understand why you're actually hoarse in the first place. The vocal cords are a pair of folds made up of mucus and other tissues. And the vocal cords come together in your throat and vibrate against the air from your lungs to make sound. Now, most of the time, we're talking about hundreds or even over 1,000 times that they're vibrating together per second. And if those collisions between the vocal cords or their vibrations are healthy, we can do this for a really, really long time without any damage. But let's say, like in our example, you went out to a bar where the music was really loud and you had to yell just in order to be heard. Well, all of a sudden, these normal vibrations in the vocal cords become really, really pressed and often very chaotic for long periods of time. As a result, the vocal cords swell with fluid in order to protect themselves and begin healing. This temporary puffiness in the vocal cords is called edema. Instead, because they're puffy, they don't really get that firm cord closure between them, which results in some hoarseness or raspiness in the voice. So this hoarseness, breathiness, or even some vocal breaks and stuff like that are a sure sign that you've overdone it, and this is what we call dysphonia.
Matt, is my voice gonna be like this forever?
Now, I don't want you to worry about this if this only happens to you every once in a while. But if this is something that happens regularly, whether it be from singing too loud or yelling over loud music, or even, professions like teachers and salespeople that often have to talk for the entire day without stopping, if this is happening to you constantly, we could be going down the road towards vocal trauma, and we want to avoid that. Okay, lecture over. Now, like I mentioned, for many people, blowing out your voice every once in a while isn't a huge problem. But what if you had another show tonight that you have to do a lot of aggressive singing at again? Or maybe if you're in a more corporate setting, you will have to give a presentation tomorrow and you don't want to sound like your throat is a garbage disposal. The fact is that many singers and speakers will have to get their voice back and functional again in a very short period of time. And the anxiety and the stress that results from that often leads people to press more in order to get their voice to work better. And I just want to point out that that's totally understandable since they're trying to get more function out of their voice. But if your vocal cords are already puffy, then adding more press to them, which is what caused the damage in the first place, is not going to get you there. In fact, it can make things worse. Think about this. If you've ever taken a break from going to the gym for a while, and then you go back one time, everybody, I think, knows how sore you feel after that first trip back to the gym. You may be like walking around like this, you may barely be able to walk or lift your arms. Well, let me ask you this. Is working out the next day, the day that you have all that soreness, is that a good way to get results? Probably not as much as doing some nice stretches, resting, hydrating, having good nutrition, and maybe just kind of stretching and flexing through those muscle movements again. So in the case of the voice, what we're going to be doing in today's video is showing you how to stretch, relax, and take care of your voice in order to get it back sooner. Now, before we get into the exercises, I just want to emphasize to you that easy does it here. In fact, it's very, very easy to overdo it again and actually make your voice sound worse. Instead, with these kind of vocal recovery tips, oftentimes I like to think that you need to go slow in order to go fast again. So before we actually get into the exercises that I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you 4 tips to help your voice recover at its best. Number 1, you want to have good sleep and have some vocal rest. Oftentimes, one of the things that's kind of causing some of the dysphonia is that your body has not had a chance to kind of reset and heal itself. So if at all possible, make sure that you're sleeping well before you have to have another performance like this. If sleep isn't an option, then go ahead and go on some vocal rest where you're using your voice very efficiently, being able to speak only a few words instead of what you would normally express yourself in maybe 100 words. The second tip is that you want to hydrate. Drinking lots of water is going to be one of the best things that you can do to help your voice recover from this. Not only is that water going to rehydrate the vocal folds, but it's also going to clean off any of the mucus and the gunk that hangs out on there as the vocal cords are trying to protect themselves. The third tip that I have is that you want to steam your voice. One of the best ways that I recommend doing that is having a hot shower at least a few hours before you have to go and perform again, or before you have to give a big speaking presentation, whatever the case may be. This steam is actually the fastest way to rehydrate the vocal fold. Typically, the water that you drink is going to take 30 to 45 minutes to get cycled all the way through your body and into the vocal folds. Instead, when you actually get into a hot shower or you have a personal steamer, Vicks makes a good one, by the way, that steam is actually hydrating your vocal cords immediately. And in our fourth tip to recover vocally, you want to use time to your advantage. I already mentioned how you want to use rest and make sure that you're getting some good sleep in order to recover your voice, but also you want to think about the time that you have before this next big performance or this presentation, whatever the case may be. You want to go ahead and warm up several hours before that to get your voice starting to function again. Which warm-ups do I want you to use? I'm going to show you right now. The first exercise that I want to show you to start recovering your voice is just a very simple lip trill. And in this case, the lip trill, you just take your two fingers, place them in the middle of your cheeks, and flop your lips together like. And what I want you to do is just do some very gentle sirens from bottom to top and back down, like. And also top to bottom. Now, it's very, very likely that you're going to have some breaks in there already where it may be, and that's totally fine. The whole idea of this exercise is that we're stretching and unpressing the vocal cords. And if they're already a little bit puffy, what this is going to do is it's going to help reduce and start to move some fluid around in the vocal cords, getting you more warmed up. So if you're doing this several hours before your actual performance, you should be good by the time that rolls around. In the second exercise to start reviving your voice, I want to show you a kind of yawny goo goo goo, like you're saying the word goose, but kind of yawny with a little bit of a more relaxed larynx. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this goo 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 on an octave and a half arpeggio. If you're new to my channel, the octave and a half arpeggio is in 3/4 time, kind of like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, done. And again, you can pause the video, rewind, and rewatch that as many times as you need to. Keep in mind that it's not crucial right now that you hit every single note that I have in this scale. The most important thing is that we're just going from the bottom part of your voice up to the top part of your voice and back down. So oftentimes, just singing a is perfect. Gentlemen, you can join me here. Ladies, let's do the same thing right here. So, keep it nice and yawny. Now, why does this exercise work so well at rehabilitating your voice? Basically, this kind of yawny sound is relaxing your larynx, which loosens up your vocal cords slightly. So rather than making them really, really pressed, which is the temptation for a lot of singers when they're trying to recover their voice, they're just like, oh, my voice really hurts, so I'm going to really press in order to get into it. Instead, just going to that really relaxed really, really allows the vocal cords to reset. In our third exercise for reviving your voice, we're actually going to start from a top pitch, repeat it, and come down. In the case of most guys, I'm actually going to recommend starting a little bit higher in the top part of your voice. Like in this case, we'll start around an A4, which should be quite high for a lot of guys. Some people, it's about in the middle of their range. This is an A4. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that kind of yawny foo, like food, and we're going to repeat that top note and then come down, kind of like this. Go ahead and try that with me now, guys. Let's do a couple more. One more. And again, the whole point of this is not letting the chords get too pressed. It's not what we want. Just that. Even if it feels really kind of heady or falsetto-y, that's totally fine. Ladies, let's do the same thing. Top of your voice right here, C#5. So like a. Now, the reason that this exercise tends to work so well is whereas in the other exercises, we've been starting from the bottom of your voice and moving upwards, basically going from thick vocal cords up to thinner vocal cords. In this case, most of the time people feel that the top part of their voice is what disappears when their voice is feeling unwell. So in this case, we're kind of forcing you to get up there, but rather than going and really, really tensing and really straining, we're just going for that really nice, relaxed, yawning. Now, in our final exercise for reviving your voice, we're going to be doing a neigh exercise. Now, the neigh exercise in this case is not supposed to be bratty. If you're familiar with my channel, you've probably seen me do like a bratty neigh, 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 and stuff like that before. In this case, we're going to keep it very spoken for the simple reason that the bratty sound presses the chords together quite a bit more, whereas a more spoken or a more relaxed neigh, 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 neigh is a lot less pressed, and it's just much more natural and relaxed. So guys, we're gonna start that right here down in B flat on the octave and a half arpeggio, like neigh, 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 neigh. I should point out that doing this exercise a little bit more spoken is probably going to make the bridge feel just a little bit more pronounced. It might make the break feel a little bit more pronounced, but that's totally fine. Just keep singing through it. Do not press, do not compress your voice in order to get through there. If your voice flips, that's totally fine. Let's do it here now. Again, very normal. Now, let's go ahead and switch over to the ladies. Now, ladies, we're going to start right here around a G3. So a nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. I'll do one more. Nay, 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 nay. Now, out of all of the exercises, this one is actually the most pressed. This is actually the one that's going to bring the vocal cords together. But if you've been doing this along so far, we should be going in a very, very kind of like gradual order where we're adding on a little bit more weight and a little bit more press into the vocal cords until you get back to normal. Just remember that if this is a one-time thing and you've blown out your voice, it is completely natural and normal for your voice to be hoarse. It's not something that you need to fix. In fact, many of the things that people do in order to fix that is just squeeze their voice more, which we've seen actually has disastrous results. Instead, we want to make sure that we're allowing your voice to just come back into a normal and healthy vibration, and that's the fastest way to revive your voice. And guys, if you're looking for more fantastic exercises to help revive and revitalize and get lots of energy in your voice, definitely check out my complete singing course, Master Your Voice, the only singing course featuring personal feedback from a real vocal coach, plus proven exercises to improve your voice.